Well, thank you very much, Steffi. I hope you can all hear me okay. My sense is the connection is a little slow, but I hope that we'll stay stable for the rest of this presentation. So, you know, it's really wonderful to be with all of you, and I'm really sorry that I'm not able to be with you in person. That had been plan A, but unfortunately my schedule in the end made it difficult for me to travel. So here I am, but virtually, and let's hope that the Zoom connection stays up for the next 30 minutes or so. It's also wonderful to be able to see you. I can see a number of you, and it is an absolutely wonderful moment to have IPDET running again in person and to see such a wide range of faces there. And I think, you know, you need to take full advantage of the fact that IPDET attracts such an interesting and diverse group of people like yourselves, not only this year, but also in many previous years. And you will become part of the IPDET community when you've gone through this course, and take full advantage, because it really is a remarkable community. IPDET has a long track record, an international reputation in the field of monitoring and evaluation. And established in 2001, IPDET has trained nearly 4,000 new, emerging, and in some senses seasoned evaluators too, running its courses for an ever more diverse set of participants. And through the pandemic, it didn't shut up shop. Instead, it moved online, adapting the model to suit virtual engagement, using workshops and community building events to keep the flame of IPDET burning. And today, IPDET, with its considerable stock of internationally recognized expertise and increasing global reach, is an essential partner in the Global Evaluation Initiative's mission to support and strengthen monitoring and evaluation capacity in developing countries. And as a founder of both IPDET and GEI, I'm particularly pleased to be here representing the independent evaluation group of the World Bank today. But this much you probably already know. So let me pivot and talk for the next 15 minutes or so about where I see some of the important opportunities and challenges in the field of evaluation practice. What we know is that over the last decades, evaluation has truly become a global field of practice. We can verify this through the sheer number of professional associations for evaluators around the globe, the number of evaluation-related journals and publications, the number of knowledge repositories, conferences, and communities of practice, and also something we care a lot about in GEI, the growth of monitoring and evaluation functions in international and national government agencies and departments, as well as in non-governmental institutions and the private sector. Evaluation has broken through in so many ways, and it's exciting to be part of such a dynamic and increasingly diverse community. But the growth of evaluation practice is also accompanied by challenges and, dare I say, divisions. Some of these are part and parcel of the growth in the field. New theories, new methods, new belief sets about the origins and values of that shape evaluation practice come into tension with one another initially, but can eventually be worked through and built upon. But some are the result of what we might call existential threats, political pressures, and incentives seeking to politicize, even neutralize evaluation through excessive routinization or reifying certain methods and approaches over others, of competition between ways of organizing evaluation practice, independent versus other, as well as competition between evaluation and other sources of evidence to support accountability and learning in an increasingly noisy evidence world. To be fit for purpose in this kind of context, evaluation must be clear on its value proposition. Speaking truth to power, if you like, a form of vertical accountability, is an important part of that proposition, especially in organizations like my own. But societally, evaluation is also about contributing to horizontal accountability, to connecting the dots across different domains of public policy or private action, to building an account of how policies and programs impact people, systems, and processes. And in the process, supporting more open, transparent, and effective ways of governing ourselves. When evaluation practice only fixates on the minutiae of its methods and techniques, it risks losing sight of what it is for. And at times of multiple crises and instabilities, the what it is for is needed more than ever. But we can never take it for granted. And I'm reminded by an interesting experience, a quite extraordinary synthesis of lessons learned during the United States 20-year campaign in Afghanistan, prepared by the independent Inspector General for the US's engagement in Afghanistan. And that synthesis of lessons that was produced only late last year noted the numerous times that evaluation and scrutiny work had identified specific and concrete flaws in the US's approach to its development efforts in Afghanistan. So this body of lessons produced by the Inspector General for Afghanistan in America was absolutely fascinating. And if you want to go and have a look at it, please do. But one of the things that was really striking about it is that it had, over a 20-year period, identified challenges and flaws in the US's approach to its development effort, but acknowledging there was very little or next to no uptake of those lessons whatsoever from different US administrations. We could spend a lot of time asking why there was very little uptake. But I think one thing is clear, that while enshrining evaluation as a system within government is a necessary condition for supporting evidence-based decision-making, it is not sufficient. The value proposition of evaluation has to be supported by behaviors and mindset shifts, including the valuing of evaluative knowledge, the spread of evaluative thinking, and openness to evidence and learning that goes with that. So this example was, we can have the best quality evaluation going, but unless we pay attention to the context within which that evaluation is to be taken up, to the behaviors and mindsets we are trying to influence, it will always be an uphill struggle for evaluation to really deliver on its core value proposition, to be fit for purpose. And this is why the work of the Global Evaluation Initiative is so interesting and important, where we see the conditions for effective evaluation capacity development as lying in three interrelated domains. The first domain is the enabling environment, which relates to the legal framework and the institutions needed to support an evaluation culture, those mind shifts that I referred to, including professional associations and levels of awareness and understanding across government and non-government sectors on the role of evaluation in supporting policy and program effectiveness. Second, the second tier is the systems and processes that produce and use robust evaluations, including legal provisions such as national and organizational evaluation policies, the establishment of independent functions, and the institutional commitment to learning and accountability. And then third, the third tier is the individual competencies, behaviors and values and skills that translate into commissioning, conducting, and using evaluation for good. Let's call this building responsible evaluation practice and responsible evaluation practitioners. And this is about being clear, not just about what we do, but how we do it as evaluators. And it couldn't be more important today. And the process starts right here with you in IPDET. But being fit for purpose and responsible in evaluation is not a static concept. It keeps evolving. And while the core principles of credibility and utility and impartiality endure in evaluation for very good reason, we must also be open to change. Given how uncertain and unstable everything is at the moment, it's an important time for us to reflect. Fast changing events and growing uncertainty can challenge the conventions that we have established for ourselves as evaluators. By that, I mean particular ways of doing things, how we go about gathering data, how we go about engaging with communities or beneficiaries or stakeholders, our analytical frames for understanding, and our conceptual models for furthering our evaluation scrutiny. An example at the moment from the way we work inside the World Bank is how we're having to adjust our largely ex post theory-based evaluation toolkit to capture the very early learning from the COVID response, for example, or real-time lessons from the international withdrawal from Afghanistan, as I mentioned before. We have to constantly be thinking, is what we're doing well calibrated to the times that we're in and the challenges that we face? And when the path is uncertain, it requires us not to simply do as we have always done, but to think where and how we may need to adjust. I'll mention two arenas that are bound to be part of this kind of future agenda for evaluation, although both have a lot of activity now in the present. The first concerns the fact that many evaluations, almost by definition, and I would say that this is very true of the work we do in the World Bank, is intervention-centric and focused on capturing incremental level change. And by that, I don't necessarily mean small change, but I do mean the kind of gradual improvements within a specific domain, be that changes in income, in health status, in learning outcomes. And this has an important place. This intervention-centric approach has an important place, especially in institutions and contexts where demands for intervention and accountability around them related to, for example, to public spending and the use of evaluation for continuous improvement are strong. But many aspects of this approach were forged during times of relative stability. The growing concern is that it gives insufficient attention to the broader setting or the system in which programs and interventions are embedded. Think of a local climate adaptation project versus the complex socioeconomic and environmental system within which it operates. Many scholars and practitioners are increasingly arguing that in order to better understand complexity of underlying interventions and processes of change, a broader systems perspective is needed. And this is in line with this trend. The criteria of coherence and the focus on depth and scale of change are receiving more attention in evaluation today. while more evaluations are looking at the interconnectedness of natural and societal phenomena. And an example is a recent one in an evaluation we undertook in IEG that looked at the relevance and effectiveness of World Bank Group programming through the nexus of a natural resource management, ecosystem change, and human vulnerability lens. What it found is by using this nexus as the lens for looking at the effectiveness of what the World Bank Group had been doing, it is actually possible to do effective natural resource management interventions while failing to tackle worsening inequality and vulnerability, which in turn drive the very conditions that maintain poor resource management. Without taking a systems perspective, it would have been impossible to identify those broader effects. Many of the natural resource management projects that we reviewed were on their own terms very satisfactory. But by looking at the interconnectedness, looking at the system dependencies, you start to build a slightly different picture. So such a focus asks not just what is working, but what is working for whom and with what implications for the systems that interrelate and are impacted by the change. The second arena is context, the importance of recognizing context-specific cultural and institutional realities in the practice and the substance of evaluation. On the one hand, as I've said, there's a consensus that the practice of evaluation rests on some widely accepted pillars, and you will hear more about those over the next few weeks around evaluation criteria and standards of data collection, when and how to use experiments and theory of change thinking. But on the other, there's also a growing awareness that what these pillars mean, how they translate, needs to better take into account the context that we're working in. This is behind the call for more culturally responsive evaluation that puts greater value on Indigenous knowledge, not just the knowledge that is required and held by experts and evaluators themselves. It also points to the importance of self-awareness as a key competency for evaluators. Nothing is ever neutral. So it is vital that we all engage our ability to be aware of our own belief sets and our own biases as we engage with evaluation, and to go the extra mile to identify those with local and Indigenous knowledge that can help build out the picture of what works and for whom in the context of evaluation. Being fit for purpose and fit for the future is the challenge we share as an evaluation community. And it fits with the strapline for IPDET, better evaluation for a better world. You will learn some terrifically important things during your IPDET course, methods and techniques that will, without doubt, set you up for a bright future. But remember, it's not just what you can do as an evaluator, but how you do it and with what self-awareness. And that is what makes you a great evaluator. So please take in everything you can from these next few weeks. But remember, when you leave and you go forth with a sense of purpose and with a great toolkit behind you, remember to carry with you also a big dose of humility. I'm going to leave it there because we're having problems with the connection, I know, but I'd be really happy to interact with you and try and pick up some questions and comments and have a bit of discussion if we can manage it. So with that, I'll pass you back to Steffi.
Thank you very much for sharing your perspectives and leaning into in-depth. And I just was mentioning that for today, there were many related contents already being raised. So your speech came to a very good timing today. And we have a couple of questions.
Look, I mean, I understand that there is quite a lot of strong feeling amongst parts of the evaluation community that certification is a critical way to go to somehow underwrite the professional recognition for evaluators, and also to provide a clear signal that, you know, we're a serious community with serious ways of going about our business and well-respected and validated standards for the way we work. And I do absolutely acknowledge the case for that. But my feeling is that in a way, that the growth that I described at the beginning of my short talk has happened, you know, we haven't needed certification to grow as a community. We haven't needed certification to become ever more recognized, particularly for example, I take within the World Bank, recognized as a serious community. I wonder if certification will choke off some of the diversity that I think we really do need within the community. And as we move more in the direction of evaluation approaches that do reflect, you know, local conditions and context and the rest, my slight worry is that we will end up with heavily standardized approaches that are feeding a model of certification and lose some of the richness and depth and diversity that we currently have and that is emergent within our community. So I think it needs to be handled very carefully, and that it doesn't end up crowding out creativity and talent. And if we can be assured of that, then maybe this is a good direction. But I am still myself a little bit cautious that in going for certification, we have a solution to a problem that I'm not 100% convinced is as big a problem that people state it is. So let's not put the solution ahead of really trying to understand what is the problem we're trying to solve here with certification, and is this the right solution? My feeling is that the evaluation community is a lot richer for the diversity that we currently have, and I would hate to lose that.
And the next question is, what would be the evaluation organization's actions to open up opportunities for emerging young evaluators, especially those from the Global South?
So this is a hugely important question. I personally feel it is incumbent on all of us working within the evaluation space to be finding approaches that open up opportunities for young and emerging evaluators from different backgrounds, from different contexts, into the work that we already do. At the same time, I very much hope and see it as part of GEI's mission to engage with evaluation communities at country level, at local level, to see what can be done to create a stronger marketplace for evaluation work in the Global South itself. It's clearly the case that the model of a sort of dominant evaluation praxis that sits in northern-based institutions needs to be rebalanced to focus much more on locally available evaluation capacity in countries to support nationally determined evaluation systems. And I think that transition, which is very much at the heart of GEI's model, will require actively creating spaces and opportunities, consultant rosters, evaluation conferences and meetings, and also connecting evaluators to one another, and also to institutions that are looking for their skills. So I do think this is such an important agenda, and one that we in IG very much see as central to GEI's philosophy. But we also would very much like, through our work, to be able to work much more systematically with local evaluators and local institutions and organizations that also in turn engage with local and emerging evaluators. So I think we've all got to look at our business model. We've all got to look at where those opportunities lie and consistently and systematically fight for those opportunities for emerging evaluators. I would also direct anyone in the room to also think about the opportunities that exist in the private sector. It is not only in the international or national public sector that opportunities for evaluation exist. And I think one of the successes of recent times is that the private sector has increasingly come to know the importance of evaluation evidence, and that is also a place to go and look. But couldn't agree more. We all need to do better at this. So my wish for evaluation for 2030 is that we have, well, many things really, but that we have developed for ourselves an approach to evaluation that continues to answer or ask the really important global challenges of the day, to really address those. And that includes, you know, where we're not making progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals. I hope that we will have an evaluation community that is broad, that is as vibrant in the global south as it currently is in the global north, that is based on, you know, huge amounts of knowledge sharing and interaction between evaluators from different contexts and different disciplinary traditions, and that we see evaluation as not the only, but a really important source of credible, objective evidence to support progress towards the SDGs. I think we are on a pathway to that, but clearly we constantly need to do more, and we need to lean in particularly to ensuring that evaluation becomes as vibrant a transdiscipline in the global south as it is in the global north. And I hope that is my hope for 2030.
And that was a very good final words of your speech today. And thank you so much again, Alison. So